Tané is here, ladies and gentlemen, and I think this is probably going to follow on beautifully from his first talk. This is all about navigating the next economy. And are you ready to go? Good. Give him a big round of applause.
All right. So I'm going to take things on a bit of a different journey for this session. First, you need to be in pairs or groups. It doesn't really matter. So no solos, no solo people allowed, because you're going to do a bit of conversation to begin with. We're going to play a little game, and you will be scored and graded. What do you think were the biggest stories, news stories, in 2019? I'll give you a couple of minutes, write them down, think about them. I'm going to score you out of 10. Can you get the top 10? And you can discuss in groups as well. Get a list together. Globally? Well, yes. Both. Yeah. Yeah. But yes, global news stories is the best way to go. What have been the news stories that have filled our screens on a daily basis? What's that? Oh, 10-ish, 50. Oh, that's all right. That's all right. We accept all number. Well done. I mean, forest fires in New South Wales? I don't know. All right, I'll give you about another minute. All right, quickly write the last one down. All right. So, did anyone get Notre Dame? So give yourself a point if you got Notre Dame. Burning down. Anything to do with Brexit? Good old Boris. Good old Pell. Any sort of old white man #MeToo thing? How about saber rattling in China seas? Yeah, China, yep. Or nuclear saber rattling with North Korea? How about the riots in Hong Kong? Yes. Nice, give yourself a point. How about the trade wars between China and the United States? Forest fires across the globe, New South Wales. Anything to do with extreme weather, climate change? Melting of the Arctic ice caps, polar ice caps. Anything to do with this asshole? I like to call him Twitler. I try and not use his name because, I think it gives him more power. So Agent Orange, Twitler, Voldemort. All right, so how many people got 5 out of 10? Nice. 6 out of 10? 4, 7 out of 10. All right, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Okay, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. All right, let me give you a list of another 10 stories that I think are largely bigger and better. Sri Lanka has been declared free of measles. It's being eradicated around the world. FDA has approved new cures for tuberculosis, now the most infectious disease in the world. Because malaria, they've done such a good job on malaria, and a new Ebola vaccine. 50,000 frontline workers in Africa have been vaccinated against this disease. We've got Philippines passes universal health care. We have 400,000 refugees now employed in Germany, and not an increase in terrorism and violence. 8.8 million Nepalese have gained access to electricity. The indigenous Warani community of Ecuador wins a landmark case against oil companies. Got Canada creates the largest marine reserve ever with the native custodians there, the Inuits. Costa Rica doubled forest cover in 30 years. That was just reported. NASA says forest fires around the world have decreased by 25% in the last 29 years. It does seem like fake news, right? Actually, in fact, worldwide forest cover has gone up by 5% on average since the same time period, largely in China, the United States, and South America. November 6th, did anyone know this? At 11:50 a.m., Australia got more electricity from renewables than from coal and gas. Should have been front page news everywhere. And it's largely to do with private organizations and households that have their own solar. All right, so how many got 2 out of 10 from that list? 1 out of 10? 3 out of 10? 3 out of 10, nice. Teacher's pet, 4 out of 10. 5 out of 10? Anything higher than 5 or 6 out of 10? Okay, so there's some incredible stories about human progress. There are countless. I mean, in the last 20 years, we've killed 98 fewer million children from preventable diseases. We've 90 million children are less forced into sex work and labor. So why is it that we focus on these? Why are these the big stories of humanity when there's some other incredible things going on out there? So why do these good news stories just come as such a surprise to us? Well, neuroscience gives us insight. So inside my brain, inside all of your brains, is a small set of neurons called the amygdala. It's an alarm bell. When you see something dangerous or scary, it overrides all other higher functioning parts of the brain. Then we have what's known as negativity bias. So when we see something dangerous or scary, it goes straight into long-term memory. And positive and good emotions and news take a much longer time to sink in. So in effect, our brains are like Velcro for the bad stuff and like Teflon for the good. So predators where teeth used to be the problem. And that's why we've evolved, our ancestors evolved. It was pretty important out in the wild. But today, that's not the predators we should be worried about. Because today's predators, most dangerous ones, are the predators with cameras. Because they know that fear is captivating, and they use it to sell us stuff. For example, a recent study from the University of Michigan in 2014 showed that when we're presented with bad news and good news, we linger far longer on the bad news, up to 30% longer. And it also, in a follow-up study, fear has a physiological effect on our body. Our heart rate goes up, our sweat output increases, like when you get up on stage and freak out, and stress hormones increase as well. So fear has a physiological effect on us, and it's captivating. Anyone have sweaty palms right now? So then we also have what's known as confirmation bias to make things even more complex. So it's our tendency to actively seek out information that confirms our pre-existing notion. Now this is powerful knowledge. It won Daniel Kahneman a Nobel Prize in 2002. And it's part of the reason that we feel so bad about the world. Then we have the backfire effect, which makes us more resistant to breaking those strongly held beliefs. And so there's plenty of it out there. It's this, all of these cognitive biases lead to a horrible feedback loop. And the media is definitely on top of it, and we can get it from all our news channels, from Twitter, from all of our screens, our iPhones, our iPads, our television. And of course, there's always the last presidential tweet. So, anyone like The Onion? It's holds morning meeting to decide what viewers should panic about for the rest of the day. So fear is like a mind virus, and we're very attracted to it, and we are conduits for it. And because of connectivity, we can share all the worst bad news stories that are happening all across the planet, and we're just not evolutionarily equipped to deal with it. So ask yourself, can you be someone who is a vaccine for this, to stop the spread of this sometimes fake news, but also just negative news? Because this is the reason why things like Ebola make headlines, but doctors' bad handwriting does not, even though it kills more people than Ebola. It's why firemen are celebrated, but nurses are not, even though they save more lives. Because firemen deal with dangerous and scary things, not day-to-day stuff, even though it's far more impactful. And the reason nurses can save more lives is they can read the bad handwriting of doctors. And then there are the politicians, because they too know that fear is captivating, and they use it to grab our attention. On the right, they tell us that immigration is coming, crime, terrorism is on the rise. On the left, they tell us that bankers are the devil and capitalism is predatory. And then the environmentalists tell us that water wars are on the horizon, that our forests are burning, our oceans are dying, and we're all on this climate change time bomb. The problem with this fear-based rhetoric, which dominates our modern-day media and discourse, is while it may galvanize a few people into action, for the vast majority of humanity, it breeds cynicism, hopelessness, and hate. And those emotions don't create solutions. We should be planning for a world in which things are getting better. The more people who truly believe that a better future can be built, the more people will actually go out and do something about it. So, I like what Franklin Delano Roosevelt says. The test of our progress is not whether we add more to the abundance of those who have much, it is whether we provide enough for those that have too little. And in almost every way on planet Earth, things are getting better for the average person. So we should be celebrating these wins and not just talking about all the problems. I'm not saying the world is a perfect place. We have huge issues, but many things are going well for humanity. So we have to be able to hold two ideas in our head at once. The world is getting better, and the world is not yet good enough. All right, so where do you start believing that a better future can be built? How do you get kids inspired to go out there and make that happen? Well, it really starts with where you get your information. I call it the information diet. So think of information the way you digest it, much like we have a diet with food. If you eat a bunch of junk food all day, all week, you're going to feel like crap. You need to balance it with greens, whole grains, and healthy stuff. And sure, go have your ice cream, go out for a burger, eat your fish and chips. That's great, but do it. Just know when you're doing it and you're actively engaging in it, and reduce the amount that you consume, because it'll actually make you feel healthier and more optimistic about the world. So think of it as intelligent optimism. It's not naive optimism. Naive optimism is a kid waiting for Santa to give him presents at Christmas. Intelligent, active, courageous optimism is one where a kid wants a tree house, so she goes, gets her friends some hammers, nails, and wood, and builds one. All right, so how can you help tune your own information streams, those of your children, and the kids that you teach? Any ideas? I'll open it up for a bit of discussion. It is difficult.
We watched the 2040 film.
Awesome. Great science communication, really inspiring a story of hope. Yeah, absolutely a great way. Because,
Things like BTN as well, they always show the good things that are happening.
Yeah, totally.
Lots of bad stuff, but there is.
Yeah, because we have all the information available to us right now. We just need to know where to go look. So, if you're looking for a place to start, one of the main jobs of Future Crunch is curating a huge selection of good news, science, and technology, and we do thought pieces about how the world is getting better and solutions to do it. It'll cost you about $2,000 a week. No, I'm kidding, it's free. It's absolutely free. We don't do anything with your data. And it comes out fortnightly. And it's kids safe, no sex jokes or any swear words, not like the presentation before. Because actually a teacher in Brooklyn said, love what you guys do, but you swear in it. So I can't show it to my kids, but keep up the good work. We had a lot of hate messages as well about like, you should never do that, that's so, ungodly, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And we basically said, well, I don't know, screw you. But good communication with, I really like what you're doing. It could be better, but keep up the good work. That's the way to truly do it. And if you do want to give us money, we give it all away for free. We have about 1,000 subscribers that give us the price of a cup of coffee every newsletter, and then we buy 3D printers like for kids with prosthetics in Nepal, traveling telescope to Africa, apps for women's health in Iran, stuff like that. So there are many ways out there to make a difference. So science, technology, and human ingenuity give us many of the tools that we need to make the world a better place. Combine that with solid fact-based information, being critical of where you get your information diet from, really gives us intelligent reasons to believe that action is possible, that a better solution is available, and that a better future can be built. And that common belief in a better future, it's the strongest glue there is. And it gives us the opportunity to love, respect one another, to work together. And that is why your job is so important and so powerful. So, how much time do we have? 20 minutes. All right. So what I wanted to impart on you is I think the best way that you can navigate the economy or any industry or your daily lives is to really tune your information stream. Understand the knowledge you digest feeds you, and it will have an effect on your health. Understand Facebook is an AI algorithm that's like a little pet, and you train it. If you're pumping bad news and clicking on the presidential tweets, then it'll just give you more and more of the same thing. When Voldemort first got elected in the United States, I freaked out and just clicked on all these articles, and then I trained my Facebook feed just to fill it with all the horrible stuff. Is that helpful? I don't particularly think so. So I had to back away from it for a month and just click on good science and technology and news like that, and stories about hundreds and thousands of people around the planet making this world a better place. So just understand you can engage in this technology and use it as a tool to help you and educate the future. I have a bunch of good news stories, but let's maybe talk a bit about technological disruption. So once you got your filters right, join the revolution, but how do you deal with the disruptive nature of technology? Well, the first is to reduce your fear from it, not only look at the negative sides, but have 2 minutes to talk in groups about what is the most disruptive technology in your life or your industry. Just have a bit of a natter. What is the single thing that you're most afraid of, or is disrupting your students' lives or your day-to-day operations? You know. I can imagine it's... All right. Let's wrap it up. Any comments, answers? Social media? Phones. Yep. Anyone else?
Yeah, everything's instantaneous. Kids don't want to work for it because they're,
Oh, the attention?
yeah, or just their effort, like spending effort on finding stuff out.
Yeah.
Because they can just get it instantly.
Yep. Yeah. So largely digital technologies like phone or iPad. So it's really rewiring.
The phone or the iPad in itself is the fact that it takes away any need to discover or to,
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's the fastest uptake in human history. It is an addictive technology. We should have, just as we have drug and alcohol education and sex ed, we should have technology education. So what are you doing, I'll ask you another question, to combat technological disruption? Banning phones? I mean, that's a good start. I think so many people are so concerned about what technology next? What do we employ? But actually, I think it could be the opposite, especially with things like phones and iPads, because kids will spend all day on them if you let them. You know, if you're learning through an iPad at school and then you go home and play on your iPad at home, that's not good for you. So I think it's more about, to deal with it is like having technological free zones. Many people in Silicon Valley have that in their homes. You're just not allowed to touch technology in that. The crazy CEOs of the big tech giants just don't let them have phones until they're about 16. So I think it's a good idea to ban phones. I really do. Because then your attention span goes up. I've done 10 days without phones before, and you notice your attention span is much longer, because this just hardwires our brain. So I think that's a really good place to start. I think other technology is great. I'm not too scared about anything else, but I am really scared about how addictive those things are. And so besides just an outright ban, are you teaching anything in the schools about, how to responsibly use technology? Yeah, no, great. I don't know. I'm asking you. There's not a right answer. But I think that technological disruption can come from engaging in it too much. And one of the best ways to not be disrupted by it is to have your boundaries with it. Any other disruptive technologies people are scared about?
I think an issue with the phones as well is a lot of the time we'll get kids who are texting in class, and their response is that I'm texting my mum. They actually are texting their mum. So it's like at home as well as school. It's not there that their parents know that they're in class texting them. They should be like, don't text me while you're in class.
Yeah.
But the parents support the phone use.
Oh,
They away from their child for 8 hours without.
Well, it's because they've trained with that electronic leash to be addicted to it, and it's become normal. It's like at dinner, how many times you'll see couples just not talking to each other.
I think the blurring line between using technology at home and school, particularly issues of cyberbullying, may happen after school hours.
Totally.
Which technically is out of school time, but the blowback from it comes back to the next day, regardless whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
It just opens up a whole raft of issues around students involved with that is a challenge.
Yeah, 100%. It's a huge challenge. I think for not just children, all age groups, people, that's why some countries, for certain age groups, suicide rates are going up. For my age group, I think it's 15 to 35. Suicide kills more of that age group in Australia than anything else. It has a lot to do with the problem of this, disruptive technology and cyberbullying. Having said that, globally, suicide rates have reached an all-time low. So it's a yes and thing as well. I mean, who would have thought suicide rates are going down worldwide on average, but you just don't hear about that stuff. I think one thing that you can do is understand, there's an existential threat of AI and machine learning. People are really scared about it. I think one of the best things you can do is teach your kids and yourself that you're probably engaging in AI hundreds and hundreds of times a day. Every time you Google, every time you Facebook, every time you tweet, you're engaging in AI. So the technology is already rampant. We're already using it. So reimagining our relationship with it is very important, and understand the boundary of when you're actually using it and when you're not, and the ramifications of eating too much junk food. Any other general questions? Oh, sorry. Oh, that's a nice slide to put up anyway. So on average, around 135,000 people worldwide have been bought out of extreme poverty since yesterday. I mean, that should be front page news everywhere. I mean, I can keep going. I just wanted to make this more of an interactive open session where you can ask questions. Or I can just pump out good news at you all day long.
Sorry, I want to know, how do you get this data?
That's a great question. Well, this is from UNICEF, 2019. So part of what we do at Future Crunch is get a really nice selection of reputable resources and not just go out and look on Facebook. It's research, it's academic research, yeah. But there are whole, if you want to, just go to the website and we post all this, we give it away all for free if you want to know and fact check them. And we're not the only ones, there's goodnews.com. So that's why, we were seeing actually the return of the newsletter, because what people need is curated information. Because you can't, the torrent of information is so large, you can't fact check everything. So you need to find these curated bits and places on the internet to find, because the internet is a dark and scary place. Yeah, full of ghosts and ghouls, and I'll say it, Trumps and trolls, rabbit holes. Yeah, I mean, yes.
I know that's one of the biggest things that we hear teachers say all the time is that there's just too much information for them, and it's actually knowing where to go and how to find that great information and that reputable information that makes their job so much easier. Because there's just too much information, too many strategies, too many ways of doing things. So that curation is really important for teachers.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm not an expert on ones for school kids and different age groups, but there are lots of free online resources already at the fingertips. It's about going into the dark, scary web and finding those. I mean, do you have any reputable news sources or things that you talk about at school or use for your curriculum? Again, I don't have answers. I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, we use
Kids News? Cool.
What was that when you said goodnews.com?
Goodnews.com is a good one. I mean, like, how cool is that? 500 million Indians don't have to defecate in the streets since 2014.
How many are left?
Oh, I'm not saying it. But I mean, you hear about just the problem. Not that, you know, they installed 90 million toilets in 5 years and reduced by 500 million people the amount of people that were defecating on the streets. I'm not, again, the world's not a perfect place. But if you can't identify solutions, like view problems as solutions and opportunities, then I think you'll just say everyone's full of shit when they're actually getting their shit together. Yeah. Cool. I mean, we can talk. Does anyone want to know about renewable energy or biotechnology? All right, well, while we have time, I'll give this slide deck, and there are notes in them as well. You can use it if you want for any educational purpose. Again, give it all away. This is a great one, 24% of people in parliament are now women, and they make much better decisions than men. A lot less malevolent. Sorry, let's talk about energy. All right. So, most of the time we see the trouser thrusting of preening politicians, right? You know, taking coal into parliament. And it's actually, the problem is that political theater is actually not reality. Currently, the lowest cost of electricity in May 2019 was wind and solar, and this is worldwide. So actually what's happened is it's now fundamentally economically cheaper to build new solar and wind than it is to even continue running existing coal and gas. In the birthplace of the first industrial revolution, where they first lit a black rock on fire, the UK went 18 straight days in April this year, 2019, without burning coal, the first time since 1888, when they first switched the coal plant on. Across the pond, in their potentially newly divorced neighbors, Europe, coal generation collapsed by 19%. They think if they continue at this speed and scale, the entire continent will be coal-free by 2030. And I'm not making an ideological argument about climate change, but I know the kids in the future generation are terrified. What gives me hope is how fast things are actually changing, and it's largely to do with dollars and cents. Now, in the United States, where I'm from, they now get more electricity from renewables than from coal. essentially all the time. Texas, the place of Texas tea, black gold, they have the most wind farms in all of the United States per capita. And a lot of the old oil barons are turning their fields into wind farms. There's a great Forbes, if you go to this article, there's a link at the bottom of this slide when I give it to you. There's a great video of this guy with a big Texas belt buckle, and he says, I love waking up in the morning and hearing the foo, foo, foo. That's the sound of me making money. So no matter what this person says, about wanting to bring back coal and there's a war on it, they've closed more coal plants in the first 2 years of Darth Vader's administration and then the entire 8 years of the Obama administration. So he who shall not be named truly is making America great again. And it's really for one simple reason, jobs. The number 2 fastest growing job in the United States is wind farm technician. Number 1 is solar panel installer. And solar and wind are growing at 12 times the rate of the rest of the economy. Speaking of future jobs, it's a great thing to get kids excited about. Prahlad Joshi, the Minister of Coal and Mines, says we're planning to cut imports of coal by at least 1/3 in the next 5 years. We count on a jump of renewable output instead. And India is just rolling it out at large scale. This is China. They have installed more than half of the world's renewable energy. This is their AI-backed electrical grid. And they're rolling out a solar panel fleet the size of a football field about every minute or 2. So China is investing hugely in these types of technologies because they know who gets there first and who really electrifies their grid with clean renewable energy is not only a way to a cleaner future, they're just going to make a lot of money and become the world leaders, the powerhouses. Now keep in mind these technologies are getting better all the time. We have wind turbines that we're dragging out into our oceans where we can harness the power of gales. This is the HAL 8X. It is taller than the Statue of Liberty. Taller than the Eiffel Tower, and each blade is longer than the Statue of Liberty. And these are being installed off the coast of Europe. We have gleaming pillars of salt and mirrors that concentrate the sun's energy popping up in our deserts. We have the world's largest floating solar farm in China. I love this because it's a flooded, abandoned coal quarry. It's a nice sign of the times. We're seeing the gigafactories pumping out in our deserts of Nevada, Mongolia, and Spain, churning out batteries to really lubricate the grid for the next wave of the energy revolution. And in a figure that should strike fear into every coal, oil, and gas executive on the planet, 75% is the amount batteries have dropped in just 7 years.
You're not speaking down the corridor like that. You're not making the scale.
A very particular politician, we got in trouble for just giving an economic analysis, an Australian politician. I'll let you figure out who it is, but he was very unimpressed by just straight facts. Of course, it's not just about renewable energy and batteries. It's about using AI and smart algorithms to manage our servers and energy grids. It's about smart cities, connectivity. It's about the blossoming hydrogen economy and fueling our cars and long-line trucking. It's about clean buildings, zero-carbon building materials. We've got vertical farming and agriculture. We've got perovskite, discovered here in Australia, which is more efficient than silicon. We're even installing solar into clear glass. Do you know where this company is? Yeah, it is. It's a father-son team that commercializes.
For us, it's about another Australian first and really getting ourselves out there in terms of thinking about the next phase of our integrated energy and solar rollout. So there's lots of roof space, and we'll eventually take all that up, and we can take a functional form that sits around us here in Chadstone, for example, windows and glass, atriums, and turn that into clean energy for our centres.
So imagine a city like where I'm from, Melbourne or Perth, where every high-rise window, every car windshield, our smartphone screens can produce energy. And you can see actually communities and cities themselves can generate a lot of their power. Oh, good news on the environment. How much time do we have? 5 minutes. All right. I'll give you because we get depressed about the environment. So forests are regenerating around the world. China over the last 18 years has spent $21 billion in the largest reforestation and conservation effort of all time. They're deploying 60,000 troops to plant forests in China to make trees, not war. 200 million trees were planted in the Sahel region of North Africa. They call it the Great Green Wall, led by an Australian researcher, actually, from 1980. And what it does is it provides jobs, and it stops desertification, and it allows you to do agriculture underneath it as well. It keeps the humidity up. So that's what the middle of Africa looks like now. 31% area of France covered in forests, up by 7% since 1990. 220 million trees were planted in India in a single day on August 9th, breaking a world record. They've got the billion-tree tsunami in Pakistan. They've already planted, I think it's 2 billion now, but they want 10 billion. And then good old Abiy Ahmed inspired Ethiopia and an entire generation to plant 350 million trees in a single day. It was in 12 hours, and they're the current world record holders. So last year, we created more ocean reserves than at any other time and any other year, largely around the Antarctic. This is off, let's see, this is in Europe, yeah, a bunch of different marine reserves. We've got the huge one I was talking about. They call it the Serengeti of the Arctic that Canada did with the custodians of the land, the Inuits. We've got whale populations exploding around the world. Humpbacks are returning, many different whales. We've got in Belize, the second largest Great Barrier Reef has just been taken off the endangered species list. So this stuff can be done. Here in Australia, since the plastic bag ban, I think we've used about 3 billion less plastic bags. And we're seeing a wave of plastic bans rolling out across the world. This is in Indonesia, in Bali, led by two young sisters, actually. This is Versova Beach in Mumbai, where a 30-year-old engineer decided he wasn't too happy about that. And so he started picking up plastic. And then he was chatting to a few people on the beach, and then a few people started to help him. And so this is him. Then in a community-led effort, all volunteer-based, turned it into this. And after 127 weeks, the olive ridley sea turtle is returned. This is a community-led initiative. So it doesn't have to be fancy technology. We've got the Paris Accord. Or no, sorry, this was the largest ban on endangered species or abandoned species like the elephant and the ivory trade. We've got the returning of the mountain gorilla in the Congo. So they've been taken off the endangered species list. So this is now the return to New York in the Bay. And just to put the size of these things into perspective, I love this. And so they haven't been there, I think, in about 40 years. Pretty cool. We've got the grizzly bear, the sea turtle, the manatee, the peregrine falcon, the panda, and the tigers have all been taken off the endangered species list in the last 18 months. So again, the world's not a perfect place, but if we can't see progress and hope, then what are we going to do? We can't just retreat to our cave and be cynical about the world, because that's not really going to help, I'm afraid. Anyway, yeah, thank you. I'll be around for lunch, too, so if anyone wants to ask me a question, happy to have a natter.